Okay, so to begin our opening ceremony, I'd like to call on Professor Mitch Parcell, who's the Academic Executive Director from the University of Tasmania, to do an acknowledgement of country. Thank you, Professor Parcell.
Thank you very much. So today we're meeting online, but many of us are gathering across Aboriginal land, sea and waterways. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I meet, the Palawa people. The Palawa people belong to the longest continuing culture in the world. They cared and protected for the country for thousands of years. I pay my respects to elders, past and present, and to many Aboriginal people who did not make elder status, and to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community that continues to care for country. I recognise a history of truth which acknowledges the impact of invasion and colonisation upon Aboriginal people, resulting in their forcible removal from their lands. Our island is a unique place with spectacular landscapes surrounded by cities, towns, bushlands, wilderness, mountain ranges and beaches. I stand for a future that respects and acknowledges Aboriginal perspectives, culture, language and history, and a continued effort to fight for Aboriginal justice and rights, paving the way for a strong future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Parcell. We have a number of invited guests to our joining us at this opening ceremony today. I shall not name everyone, but would like to introduce the members of the Australia-ASEAN board who are with us today, Ms. Tamara Beasley and Professor Nicholas Farrelly, and we will be hearing from both of these people later on in the program. We're all representatives from the Tasmanian Department of State Education, as well as members of the university community, including from the School of Education, the School of Humanities and the School of Health Sciences. In addition, our invited guests include a representative of the university's Engagement and Partnerships Group, and of course the presenters for the webinar series. We also welcome all the 300 plus ASEAN partners who are going to be here and the conference participants. I'd like to just add a moment, we had apologies from Professor Sharon Fraser, who is a member of the project team, but who wasn't able to be here today for reasons beyond her control. I'd like to introduce Professor Mitch Parcell to you more formally. He is an Australian Office for Learning and Teaching National Teaching Fellow and an Australian Learning and Teaching Council citation winner. He was instrumental in assisting the University of Tasmania to respond to the challenges of COVID-19 by adopting online learning across the university. Professor Parcell has over 2 decades of experience in online learning, so is very well placed to lead the university in this response. He is an editor of Peer Review of Learning and Teaching in Higher Education International Perspectives and has chaired a number of external reviews, including for the University of Pretoria and the Australian School of Advanced Medicine. So I'd now invite him to give his welcoming address. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. It is really my great pleasure to welcome you all to the Australia-ASEAN Academic Forum Online Education during COVID-19 and beyond. Let me start by thanking the Australian Government through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade for support for this forum, and to the forum conveners for organising such an inspirational range of presentations. I'd also like to thank the board members who are with us today. It really is an honour to host you and to host all our guests. The forum that starts today is the first of 2 rounds for 2021. This one represents presentations on online education from the University of Tasmania and across the Southeast Asian region. The forum has many benefits. Given my role, I'm particularly delighted to see it highlighting the University of Tasmania's reputation as a high quality and innovative online education provider. I'll just choose one example. So later you'll get to hear from the distinguished Professor James Vickers, who is doing amazing work in the Wicking Centre to combat dementia. As many of you probably know, dementia impacts upwards of 50 million people across the world, with approximately 10% or so of people impacted at some point throughout their lives. These raw numbers indicate, or underlie rather, a massive personal, societal and financial costs. So any educative response has the potential to have dramatic global impact. And Wicking are doing a number of wonderful things in online education to do exactly that. They have resources that include a MOOC that has been voted in the top 5 in the world of all time, a truly remarkable achievement. Now, I've highlighted that one example just to demonstrate the depth of impact of online education, how it can benefit all of society. The range of predators across the forum clearly demonstrates the breadth of impact that online education can have. COVID-19 taught us at the University of Tasmania and potentially across the globe that online education can support the full spectrum of the curriculum. I was honoured to lead the response to the pandemic. We began in early 2020 when the virus appeared to be restricted offshore. We very quickly pivoted 3 high-volume courses to remote learning. Originally, these courses had very little to no online content. With hard work from the course coordinators themselves, the course teams, the teachers involved, our learning designers and our educational technologists, we were able to have the beginning of semester ready for remote delivery in well under a month. A really remarkable achievement. As the pandemic progressed, we gradually increased the number of courses we supported online. In fact, at UTAS, we were able to offer all of our courses last year with large parts of the curriculum offered remotely. A truly remarkable achievement and a credit to everyone across the institution. But of course, this is not an isolated story. It's not unique to UTAS. During the pandemic, it played out across institutions nationally and internationally. For many of our colleagues, it was probably the first time they'd seriously engaged in remote or online learning. They learned perhaps for the first time that online and remote learning can fully support high quality student learning outcomes. Of course, the rapid move online meant that this wasn't always the case. Not all of our offerings are at present high quality. We still have much to learn. We still have much to improve. So this is exactly the right time to be having the discussions that are scheduled for this forum. It is now the time to hear from researchers and practitioners about how best to support high quality online education. Our colleagues are now eager to hear and learn about what makes online education successful. What pedagogical approaches work best remotely? How can we support innovative and authentic assessment? And so much more. So I'd like to personally thank everyone involved in this forum for your input, and I'd like to welcome you all to the forum. It promises to be engaging, informative, and indeed inspiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Parcell, for those words. And please excuse me if you hear a noise. I've got a truck backing out behind me, sorry. I would now like to introduce Professor Victoria Carrington. Professor Carrington is the Dean and Head of School of Education at the University of Tasmania, as well as being a member of the project team for this initiative. She has experience of a range of universities, having worked at the University of Queensland and at the University of South Australia here in Australia, as well as having had roles at Plymouth University and the University of East Anglia in the UK. Her research interests include digital technologies and digital cultures with a focus on adolescents and youth. And so I hand over to her now. Thank you, Victoria.
Well, hello everyone and welcome. It is so exciting to see you all. As the head of school of the School of Education at the University of Tasmania, I'm so happy to welcome esteemed colleagues and partners who join us from the University of Tasmania and across Tasmania from other areas. I would like to welcome the more than 300 delegates from across Southeast Asia who are participating in this series of forums, presentation and webinars at this event here in June and in the next one in September. I'd also like to take this opportunity to extend my thanks to Dr. Vin To for developing the initial concept for this important and timely forum and for leading its development with such grace and goodwill. She has built a wonderful network and she knows most of you already, and it's wonderful to see you all together here with her. So the world changed around us in 2020, and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic continues to be felt in all countries and all areas of life, including higher education. And for many of us, teaching in hybrid, blended and online ways has been a focus of research and practice for a number of years. But for many, many more of us across our region and the world, the need to rapidly work in new ways, with new technologies, with learners in different kinds of spaces was unprecedented. We are forced to make new ways of learning and teaching work, whether we liked them or not. This shift was more about turning on a computer and putting content online. We realized that very early on. It's a complex shift that's wrapped up in issues around space and identity, around learning practices and progression, around engagement, the very high demand of high cliff face edge learning around the use of technologies for both teachers and learners at the same time. This forum is born out of the acknowledgement that much of this move online and the move to new forms of learning has been embedded in some areas of our work, but in others not so much. And that we've each learned an incredible amount about pedagogy, around technologies, and around the needs of learners and the needs of people who put together really high quality online and blended programs for those learners. This forum is one of the first moments for Southeast Asian colleagues to come together and share their learnings, their innovations, and the challenges that they've faced and the ways in which they've worked together to overcome them. So for me, because this is an area of research I'm interested in, for my school, which has a really high engagement in online learning, for the university, which, as Mitch Parcell said, was very quickly moved online in ways that have been both incredibly innovative, but also challenging. This is a wonderful moment. It's incredibly important work that's going to go on here across these two meetings. So I thank you all for your participation in this series of engagements, and I warmly welcome you to share your experiences with colleagues across the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Carrington. I'd now like to introduce Ms. Tamerlane Beasley from the Australian-ASEAN Council Board. Ms. Beasley is the founder and managing director of Beasley International. She leads a team of consultants working across Australia and the Asia Pacific region for multinational corporate clients, international NGOs, and the federal and state governments. She studied Asian Studies at the Australian National University, International Business at Penn State University, and Thai at Chulalongkorn, in Thailand. She lectures at Australia's leading universities with a focus on global and cross-cultural leadership and communication. And she's a fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. Thank you very much, Ms. Beasley.
Thank you so much, Professor Coscelli. It's wonderful to be here today. So I'm a board member with the Australia-ASEAN Council, and we're really delighted to be involved in such an important project. The Australia-ASEAN Council are really about supporting people-to-people relationships and engagement across the countries of Southeast Asia and Australia. And I can't think of a better example of how to do this. And one of the things we're really keen to do with the work of the Council is to support mutual collaboration and learning. And I think one of the things that we know is that innovation and creativity and change is more possible when we engage with diverse perspectives. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to engage with colleagues from across the region. So I'd just like to share a few comments and perspectives around this particular topic. And this is a topic that I've spent a lot of time and energy on, as many of you have, and I'm quite daunted to be talking about this in the presence of academic specialists on this topic. My experience has been very much trial and error, and as the leader of my personal company, Beasley Intercultural, we're a small business. But we deliver learning programs. So my business is 24 years old, and we've been going on a digital transformation, as you have, in recent years. And I just wanted to share some of our experiences in terms of challenging everyone to think about what we're exploring here. So first of all, I'd just like everyone to cast their mind back. I don't know if you can recall, but at the end of 2017, there was a video that went viral online. It actually got more than 48 million views. And that video was of a BBC interview, and there was a specialist being interviewed on current developments in South Korea. And I don't know if you can remember the video, but what happened is he was presenting as professionally as he could from his study, and his 2-year-old wandered in, followed closely thereafter by his toddler, at which point his wife realised what was happening and crawled in, and he was horrified. And the whole world was fascinated by this intrusion of the domestic personal life into the professional. And it was so unusual that we were all fascinated, and it launched so many conversations around the separation between personal life, work-life balance, and whether it is actually possible to work from home. Now, that was such a novelty. So it's hard to believe that that was literally only a couple of years ago, because in my business as well, we embarked upon a digital transformation journey in 2019 prior to COVID. And I engaged very expensive tech experts to give us advice about what platform we should be using. Should we actually be using this Skype or this thing called Zoom, which I've heard a few people use? So literally 6 months after that research project I invested in, my team were delivering programs on Zoom, Blue Jeans, WebEx, Teams, Big Blue Button, Skype, and Google Meet, proving that that decision-making process was totally redundant, and we all have to adapt and use whatever is necessary to get across this. Our clients were appearing on screen in their lounge rooms, in their bedrooms, their kitchens, holding babies, at one point breastfeeding. We had toddlers, Lego on the floor, and it was men and women we were seeing in domestic contexts, where often there was much more of a split there in terms of this concept of family and flexible work practices. It was something women did, not men. So the world has shifted. And I think so many of us have been rapidly hurled into this world of online learning. Obviously, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you all for the work you have done. As the parent of children who have been doing online learning, and the wife of a husband who is a teacher who had to learn how to teach woodwork skills to special needs children online, I was also supporting him learning how to use technology. So I think we've all been on a very rapid learning transition in terms of what is and isn't possible online. I think one of the things that's really interesting coming, and I don't think we're remotely coming out of this learning curve, is that although we miss things about face-to-face contact, what we've been forced to do is discover that there's so many positives. As friends and colleagues in Jakarta have shared with me, they're actually loving having another 20 hours of time in their week, because all of a sudden they're not commuting in Jakarta traffic. 20 hours is a lot of time to get back with your family and your friends. We've actually found, because we support, our focus in my business is around effective intercultural collaboration and communication, that good online learning and engagement can actually be more democratic and inclusive. We can actually amplify voices that may not be heard. There are ways that it's easier to communicate in a second language online that might be really difficult in person, live, face-to-face. So through using different methodologies and pedagogy and a different approach, it's actually possible to be incredibly creative. So what I'm really hoping is that you all have the opportunity to share your journey, but also what you've learned along the way. And what we know is that there's so much that we can learn together from the perspective of Australians and people in the countries of Southeast Asia sharing. We know that digital transformation in some of the countries in Southeast Asia is far more advanced than it is in Australia. If we're talking about the uptake of certain digital technologies as well, we need very much in Australia to be listening and learning. So please, just to recognise and highlight that this is definitely a collaborative learning experience, and I'm really hoping that people will be listening as much as they're sharing to their colleagues over this period and supporting one another in what I think is actually such a transformation to the way we think and engage, that it can change the way we teach in the long term. We had clients who shifted from fully face-to-face, and my team are on planes every week, to fully online, and now we're shifting back to somewhere in the middle with blended learning. And what we're finding is that we can have the best of both worlds. So, and I'm hoping that we don't let go of some of the benefits, particularly on the personal front, that we've gained from this. And what I'm also finding is collaborating across the world, actually, and the region has been enabled, where I used to have to engage a professional film crew, professional lighting, to interview people and professional editors to make video for online learning. I'm now just interviewing people on Zoom on their phones and editing it because it's easier for me to edit or my team to edit and putting it online, and we can turn it around in 12 hours. So please take the opportunity to enjoy the experience, and congratulations so much to the University of Tasmania for putting this together, and Dr. Vinto. What a wonderful achievement. And thank you for your efforts, because I'm sure bringing this together, as bringing anything together online, it often takes more work to do this well. So we recognise how much work you've been doing behind the scenes, and congratulations. So congratulations to everybody, and I hope you all enjoy the experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bezos, for those very exciting words around the possibilities. I'd now like to introduce Professor Nicholas Farrelly, who's also from the Australian-ASEAN Council Board, and he's the Head of Social Sciences here at the University of Tasmania. So Professor Farrelly joined the University of Tasmania in January 2020, and here he leads a vibrant multidisciplinary academic team within the School of Social Sciences. In his own research, he specialises in the study of political, economic and cultural issues with a focus on rapidly changing Southeast Asian societies. Professor Farrelly is a graduate of the Australian National University and the University of Oxford, and previously held key leadership positions in the ANU College of Asia and the Pacific. From 2017 to 2019, he was the Associate Dean responsible for engagement across government, business and civil society. Professor Farrelly is a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors and a Senior Fellow of the Higher Education Academy. Professor Farrelly, thank you.
Thanks very much, Professor Coscelli, and thank you very much to everybody for joining us today. It's a huge privilege for me to be here in both my capacity, like Tamerlane Beasley, as a member of the board of the Australia-ASEAN Council, and also in my role here at the University of Tasmania as the head of the School of Social Sciences. I want to begin by highlighting my enthusiasm for what we're doing here. This has been, I know, a huge effort from colleagues across the School of Education over the past year. Bringing together this series of webinar forums has been a huge investment of time and energy, collaboration and inspiration. And I think that a word that's already been used a few times this afternoon is apt. I'm inspired to see well over 100 of you joining us around this Zoom room today, and knowing that there are 300 academics, teachers and researchers from all countries across ASEAN joining us in this program is a sign of the times that, as Tamerlane has just highlighted, have tested us. There's no doubt about it. We have all needed to adjust ourselves to make the most of these new technologies and the opportunities that come with them. And yet, I think we can all feel a sense of accomplishment to know that so many societies around the world have proved so resilient in terms of the education that we can deliver to our young people, particularly at a time of such upheaval, is yet again a sign of our shared humanity and our shared commitment to doing better. Here in Tasmania, and as you just heard, I've only been here for 18 months, which means that my entire experience of our University of Tasmania has been shaped by our pandemic response. And yet there have been some opportunities already to engage with colleagues from across the ASEAN region from my new base here in Hobart. Earlier this year, it's worth noting that the board of the Australia-ASEAN Council welcomed the heads of mission, so that means ambassadors and high commissioners from the 10 ASEAN countries for a face-to-face in-person visit here on our Tasmanian island. It was remarkable for us that this was possible. And it was also special because of the way that it highlighted yet again the value of close people-to-people links between Australia and our friends across the ASEAN region. Of course, that particular set of engagements and interactions are still relatively rare. What we have instead, of course, are these Zoom rooms and all of those other technologies that Tamerlane highlighted, which we have sought to use as effectively as possible over this difficult period. The fact that this webinar is going to draw on insight and experience from across ASEAN is, I think, in the very best tradition of the kinds of relationships that our academic institutions are here to curate and to grow. And so I'd like to end by also congratulating the team involved in organising this event. They've done a splendid job. From the perspective of the Australia-ASEAN Council Board, this is exactly the kind of activity that makes it all worthwhile. And the fact that we have 117 participants from so many different places, so many corners of this region joining us today is a great credit to everybody who has drawn this together. Noting that we're all in different places, I just wanted to end perhaps by highlighting that this is our place here in Hobart. And if we were under other circumstances, what we would do, of course, is fly around the world and meet each other face to face. And because we can't do that, I'm just going to lift my camera up. And for those of you who've never been here to Tasmania, this is the view out across the Derwent River and back into my office here, and an indication of this place. We know that you're all proud of your own places. We're excited that you can join us today with these miraculous technologies. We wish you well in all of your work, and I certainly hope that this webinar series goes incredibly smoothly over the months to come. Thanks again, everybody, for having me involved.
Thank you, Professor Farrelly, for the enthusiasm and best wishes. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Vinh To to you, although many of you have already very familiar with her. Dr. To is the leader of this project that has brought us all here together today, and I join with those of you who've already congratulated her on the work that she has done to this point. Dr. To is a member of the School of Education and lectures in English Curriculum and Pedagogy. Prior to joining the University of Tasmania, she had worked in a university in Vietnam for some years. Her research interests include systemic functional analysis, languages learning, and bilingual and cultural education. She's now going to provide a brief overview of the project for you. Thank you, Vinh. Dr. To.
Thanks very much, Monica, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. The Academic Executive Director, Professor Miss Passos, the Australian-ASEAN Council Board member, Miss Tammy Bezos, Professor Nicholas Farrell, Head of School of Education, Professor Victoria Carrington, Associate Dean of Research, our team member, Professor Monica Kelly, and all invited guests from the University of Tasmania, from the Department of State Growth, Tasmanian Government, and all valued partners and speakers at UTAS and colleagues in Southeast Asia. I cannot express how grateful I am to have all of you here for the opening ceremony. I'm very touched. And I must say, the success of the project so far is the success of teamwork. I owe my success to many people, to a number of people at the University of Tasmania and my partner and colleagues across Southeast Asia. As you know, this project has been funded by the Australian government through the Australian-ASEAN Council of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And thanks to this generous support, we are able to make our initiative come true. So we are very grateful for the support. And I would like to express our gratitude to the University of Tasmania for administrating this project, and the substantial efforts have been put into projects. I would like to acknowledge my research teams, 4 research team members, and various teams at UTAS, like the middle team, marketing team, finance team, partnership team, various teams at UTAS, and I think this is such a great teamwork that I'm so privileged to work with you all. And our fantastic partners from 10 Southeast Asian countries, and all the colleagues in Southeast Asia, over 300 participants in Southeast Asia. And you will meet our fantastic presenter in the next 2 weeks. So they are from the University of Tasmania, and you will meet more interact with speakers from Southeast Asia in September. So I must highlight this is the success of teamwork, and I wouldn't be able to do this without the support from all of you. So my heartfelt gratitude to all of you. So now I will. So research team member, you already know today we have myself, Professor Victoria Carrington, Head of School of Education, our team member, and Professor Monica Kelly, one of the research team member, and Professor Sharon Fraser. Unfortunately, she's not available today, but her contribution to the project so far is greatly appreciated. And some Southeast Asian colleagues may wonder where Tasmania is. So Nicolas just saw his wonderful office and the view outside his office. So this is the map, so you can see where we are. So we are here, Tasmania. So it's an island state separated from the mainland of Australia. And from here, we partner with fantastic economists in 10 Southeast Asian countries to implement this project. And our vision is to promote leadership, international collaboration between economists in Tasmania, Australia, and Southeast Asia. And we aim to support the Australian government's international relations policy and the Australia-ASEAN Council's people-to-people links objective by establishing and fostering the multilateral relationship between academics in Southeast Asia and Australia, particularly in Tasmania, for ongoing partnership and collaboration. And for this project specifically, we aim to examine the readiness and challenges of online education in 10 Southeast Asian countries during COVID-19, the high quality practices of online education in various disciplines at the University of Tasmania and at some selected Southeast Asian university. And at the same time, we investigate the multiple benefits of engaging in an academic forum to enhance online teaching in higher education in both regions. So I feel very privileged to be able to co-lead this project with you all. And I feel very lucky to work at the University of Tasmania because I have no experience in online teaching before I worked at the University of Tasmania. And thanks to the experience working at the University of Tasmania when I started my full-time job in 2016, but before that, I already did some casual work in 2014, 2015. So I have nearly 7 years or 8 years experience in online teaching so far, and I have some awards and teaching merit certificates and for outstanding online courses. So all my experience about online teaching is thanks to the University of Tasmania. So I from this experience, I come up with the idea to about online education to foster the discussion on this topic during COVID-19. So now we would like to invite 2 Asian partners to speak on the importance of project in their context. And before I end my short speech, I would like to once again thank you so much to all of you for your support, wonderful support to the project so far. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. To. We, as Dr. To said, we have 2 of the two speakers to represent the 10 partners of the project. Our first speaker, who's going to speak a little bit about the project, is Associate Professor Irish May Fernandez de Lona. Professor Fernandez de Lona is the chairperson of the English Department of the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology. In addition to teaching undergraduate and graduate courses in the university, she provides teacher training facilitation in secondary and tertiary education institutions in other regions of the Philippines. So thank you very much, Associate Professor Fernandez de Lona.
Thanks. Could I start now, Professor Caskelli? Okay. Again, warmest greetings. The year 2020 had proven that no matter how much our university here in the Philippines has proven its caliber, the COVID-19 pandemic has revealed threats of enormous proportions, setting our lives in the way we do things. At the onset of school lockdowns, although reluctant, we were all forced to immediately shift to online teaching. Stress and uncertainty had been overwhelming, putting into test our patience in spite of the online training that we had. We were still very fortunate because our university has facilities and some experts to facilitate the training when other schools were still groping on what they can do given the dearth of resources. Indeed, this crisis has exposed many inadequacies and inequities in our education systems, for one. And the setup has exacerbated the distance between the haves and the have-nots. And although literature tells us how advantageous online learning is, the birth pains of the sudden shift have taken its toll to our students, many of whom had experienced extreme anxiety over their failure to attend synchronous sessions and to submit assignments due to power outages or poor internet connectivity. My colleagues, on the other hand, have to put in additional efforts, learning how to use the tools, plus learning how to teach the content in ways that will cater students who have internet access and those who don't. Now, more than a year after, we still haven't opened our university to students as cases continue to surge in our area. Problems at home and the lack of mobility and other distractions continue to affect attendance and learner engagement. And despite all these, I have observed how teachers and students have persevered. Both still prefer in-person classes though. Moreover, there are still a lot of things to rethink and reconfigure because whether we like it or not, we have to be ready to post-pandemic classrooms. Whatever this entails, I am excited, but at the same time nervous. I'm excited for newer spaces and newer discourses that this global health crisis has eventually paved for. Yet I am also nervous if given our current knowledge bases, resources, skills, and expertise, do we continue to remain relevant in this continually changing academic landscape? My participation to this project is hence an attempt to turn this crisis into a learning opportunity. The meaningful discussions in this project, I believe, will help us acquire better perspectives and perhaps even the best practices that would help sustain our long commitment to quality and excellence in teaching, research, and extension. And I also believe that our discussions in this project will eventually be translated to actionable strategies that will help higher education institutions here in the Philippines and in the rest of the ASEAN region reinvent its learning environments. Again, I would like to thank the University of Tasmania, Australia, and of course, its the co-founders of Australia-ASEAN Academics Forum, Dr. Vinto, Professor Victoria Carrington, Professor Sharon Fraser, and Professor Monica Caskelli for considering the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology as one of your project partners. And of course, for giving us all here this safe space where we can all sit down and discuss what really mattered now. Again, thank you very much and maraming salamat in our language and have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Fernandez de Lona, and we'll look forward to having more discussions with you, of course. Our next presenter is also one of the 10 partners from the project. This is Professor Lupatu Artini, who is from Indonesia, a professor of English education and currently teaching at the Faculty of Language and Arts University, Pendidikan Ganesha in Bali, Indonesia. She has a strong connection with Australia, having completed both her master's and her PhD studies here. Professor Atina is an active researcher and writer in the areas of EFL pedagogy, teaching English for young learners, and literacy. And we look forward to hearing her words. Thank you very much. You're still on mute, Professor Artini.
Unmute. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize that. Thank you so much, Professor Kaskeli. First of all, I would like to extend my warmest greeting from Bali to the research team, to Dr. Finto, who is the leader of the research project, and the project team, Professor Saren Fraser, Professor Victoria Carrington, Professor Monica Kaskeli, and also all the distinguished guests, Professor Mitch Parcell, Ms. Tamerlyn Beasley, Professor Nicholas Farrelly, and other invited guests, the valued partners and participants from the 10 Asian countries. I would like to express my also special appreciation to Dr. Finto and the project team for having such a brilliant idea for this project. And I think they have read the actual problem across Asian region for the urgent need to support online learning implementation in universities and Asian countries. Never would we imagine that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed everything in this world. In universities, all of a sudden, classes are suspended, but learning should go on. As a result, there is a state of emergency in many universities about how to cope with the curriculum through online learning, which include what to teach and how to teach. And then in most universities that have implemented online learning in their daily practice, this would not be a problem. But in many universities in Indonesia, this is a real problem. The use of technology in the classes before the pandemic outbreak was limited to the use of learning resources and media. In my university, e-learning that uses open source of learning management system of Moodle has been developed a few years ago, which helps students stay focused to the curriculum. However, many of us are newcomers in conducting synchronous online teaching. The state of emergency has pushed us to learn to use online teaching platforms such as Zoom and Google Meet. I myself, and I believe also many of the participants of this forum, need support to improve the skill and confidence in conducting effective and creative online teaching. I'm aware that the research team from the University of Tasmania in Australia are doing their best for the support. As one of the leading institutions in online education, I believe that the project will have a significant contribution to the quality of online teaching in higher education in Asian countries. I'm hoping that the project doesn't end with this kind of support. We all hope that there will be mutual partnership and an ongoing collaboration between academic and institutions in the two regions for sustainable development, either in academic and non-academic program in the future. Thank you very much, University of Tasmania, for involving us in the project. May God bless us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Artini, and I'm sure there will be many who hope that other relationships develop from this particular project. I'm now going to turn back to Dr. To, who's going to take us through the program for this first phase of the project. So, Dr. To, over to you again.
Thank you again, Monica. So there are two rounds of the webinar in 2021. But the first round in June, and the first round we will happen in the next 2 weeks with the opening ceremony happening today, and the two webinars about the challenges of online education in Southeast Asia that will happen tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And after that, you will meet with the UTAP presenters, presenter from different disciplines at UTAS, including education, humanities, social science, ICT, economics, and health, and they will share their experience about online teaching at UTAS. And so we really look forward to seeing, what's wrong? So we really look forward to seeing all of you, or the majority of you, in the next 2 weeks to discuss online education. And after the first 2 weeks for the webinars, we will do group interviews. So we already sent you the Zoom links, the abstract, and schedule booklet to participants. So there are 2 separate booklets. So one we use for invited guests and one for participants. So participants already already received the interview schedule with the Zoom links for you. So please say the dates and please join your group interview. So we will conduct 3 interviews at the same time on the same day, on the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd of June. Okay, can I ask someone to mute yourself, please? And then we will have the final 2 interview on the 24th of June. So we really hope to hear what you think about the webinar in the first 2 weeks of June. And the second round of the webinar will happen in September with the 10 presentation from 10 Southeast Asian academics. That's the expectation, but we might have more because we are delighted to receive so many expressions of interest from Southeast Asian academics so far. So possibly we will have more than 10 presentations, and that will be really exciting. And so the first 2 weeks of September will be dedicated to a presentation to discuss online education in Southeast Asia. And then the final week of September will be about individual interview. So we would like to interview presenters in Southeast Asia further about your thoughts on online education in your context. So thank you very much, everyone. We really look forward to your active participation in the webinar series in June and in September.
Thank you very much, Dr. To. So Dr. To has now provided us with the overview of the full program for the year, the presentations from the University of Tasmania staff, and then of course the presentations from our partners. And as she said, we have a large number of people interested in presenting, so that's going to be a very exciting and useful exchange. And the meetings, the next 2 webinars around discussions will also be something I think that will be very helpful to everybody to be thinking about the innovations to some of the issues that have been raised as challenges around the implementation of online learning. So thank you all very much for attending today. It's been terrific to see the numbers of people who have come and to listen to the inspiring opening remarks by a number of our speakers. So we thank you very much for that. We're certainly all looking forward to the coming discussions that we see as being intensely interesting and immensely helpful, and to the collection of information that we will be able to do through the discussion groups and interviews that we're planning to conduct. The sessions are sure to be stimulating and informative, and I'm sure everybody's looking forward very much to thinking about the implications for developing high quality online teaching. So thank you all again. We look forward very much to seeing you over the next week and getting to know everybody better. Thank you all. Goodbye for today.
Thank you all. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tammy,
you, everyone.
Nicholas,
Thank you.
Victoria,
Bye.
Monica, Mitch.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.